Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You are the masterpiece, where we keep discovering that you can be the work in progress as well as the masterpiece at the same time. We do not have to be perfect as long as we are taking the effort. And if this is the first time you are tuning in, hello, my name is Irina Portnova, and I am a manifestation star, and I help people to tap into the manifesting powers because we all have them, but I teach people how to do it consciously with joy and effortless. And today I have in the studio my guest, Keri Bentsen. Keri, welcome, and it's so great to see you with us. Can you share a couple of words what you're doing in this world?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Irina. And yes, so I am a self-worth coach. And what I do is I help people reclaim their worth in life without playing small.
I love it. I love it. So, and today, exactly, this is the topic of our conversation. Today, we are talking about lack of self worth. I think this is something that goes to everyone, right? It's the message that some people are still struggling, still working through that. And let's just dive in. Like, why do people have these issues in the first place?
Yeah, it can stem from a lot of different things in life. It could be your upbringing, it could be your experiences with other people. And then we look at ourselves and sometimes we feel like we're not enough. Because to us, everyone else seems to have it all together, but we have to remind ourselves we're seeing the best of everyone. And then sometimes we just see the worst of ourselves and we feel like we're in competition, we can't keep up. And, lack of self worth shows up in so many different ways. It could show up as an imposter syndrome. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves before we even give ourselves a chance. So there's so many ways it can show up in your life.
I love that. And let's just talk a little bit about personal story. Like, what was your upbringing, and what did you realize throughout the journey? Because obviously, we all have our stories. Because I was raised in a very loving family. I never experienced any kind of lack of love. However, like my mom was very on point with demands, right? Everything was like, I remember no matter how good I was doing, she was like, well, you can do better. So basically, I felt that inner love, but she was never about compliments, about just celebrating. And again, nothing is wrong because we can expect from our parents something that they were not taught to do, right? So basically, it was also about me on my journey and to discover. And I learned it like first time I, step my foot on USA land, coming from Ukraine. That's when I discovered that confidence is powerful. And it wasn't just somebody teaching me, it's just like that inner knowing. Because if we connect with our intuition, it's always guiding us. And I was just watching these men and women with the suits or running with the brown bags. For me, it was like all such a new experience. And I was like, one day I'm going to be one of them, right? I did not even question myself how I'm going to show up in this world, but I just claimed that. Obviously, at that point, I did not know anything about manifestation, but the point is, it's all about what we believe. We start seeing more of that. So, Carrie, take us a little bit on your journey. Like, why do you actually help people with the self worth?
Okay, excellent question. Thanks for asking. Well, I had a great childhood. I have no complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Loving home, parents encouraged me. With For me, it was my marriage. It was a very challenging marriage, and I was a people pleaser, and I could never feel like I could do enough. Be good enough. And so when I divorced after 30 years of marriage, and keep in mind also I married young. I was 19 when I got married. So I was basically married my whole adult life until
Mm-hmm.
I got a divorce. So since the divorce, I've spent the last few years doing deep inner work because I felt like, oh my gosh, who am I?
Mhm. Totally.
Really? Yeah, and it was the first time I was experiencing my life as an adult alone, so I
Mhm.
didn't know who I was. I went through, a lot of moments of self-doubt, isolation, confusion, and, it led me to reflect on my life, my whole entire life until that point, and I realized that, a lot of my self-doubt stemmed from lack of self-worth, and even though, like, I knew I was of value, I still doubted that at some level.
Mhm.
And I went through so many ups and down, like, "Oh, yeah, I believe in myself, yes," and then, like, imposter syndrome would hit me really hard when I would try something new. I'm like, "I can't do this, I'm not capable." Like, "Everyone else has it all together, this is not me," and then I would find myself, sabotaging myself because I was afraid I was gonna fail. So that showed up a lot when I was, starting my business, and, I kept comparing myself to other people. "Well, I'm not as good as them. I'm not as qualified." So, I just went through so much, and when I see other people going through that, it breaks my heart. Like, "Oh, I know exactly what they're going through. I don't want them to go through that. I went through it." And so I went on a self-healing journey and explored many aspects of wellness. That's how I got into holistic wellness, with the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So each part of that really shaped me into who I am today. And it was the understanding of the mindset, like our, a lot of times we don't realize when we're thinking something, like, when our thoughts are saying, "You can't do that," "You're not capable," it's really, our mind trying to protect us. It's just how we're made, our DNA from back in the caveman days trying to protect us, from danger. So our minds saw, challenges and, opportunities at danger because I might fail. So trying to
Mhm.
yeah, so, I had to do a lot of mindset work around that. I really had to shift from my lack mindset to an abundance mindset, and, you have helped me a lot with that, with your manifestation class, and, um, and then um, with the spiritual, you know, I found a church that I love and just, having faith and no matter what, as
Mhm.
choosing faith over fear, knowing that God is there for me, helping me every step of the way. And, there have been times when I would go through stuff and I'm like, God, why am I going through? Haven't I been through enough already? Why are you
Mhm.
through this? And then it's not until afterwards when I see that challenge that I got through, I'm like, okay, I get it. Alright,
Mhm.
you're you want me to go through this so that I can grow, and I see it every time. Before I would look at it and start to have pity for myself, like that self-pity, "Oh, woe is me, I had to go through this and that," and then when I shifted my mindset, I'm like, "Oh, each time I went through that, I grew. I went to
Mhm.
the next level." And, this is God preparing me, and he's not done with me yet.
Yes, totally. You know what? Thanks so much for sharing because I can relate so much to your story in terms of I also been in marriage for 24 years and like 7 years ago when it all went down to drain because my ex-husband decided he had enough of it and he was the first one to initiate the divorce. And I remember I was just totally lost. I was just, like also started to question a lot of things and, like the most important thing for us to realize that these moments come as the blessings for us because this is the moment when we connect with ourselves deeply, and when we start searching for deeper answers, because a lot of times people just navigate in this 3D reality with just, like knowing that, okay, there is a family, there is a job, and that's all they know. And they really do not go into the depth of who we truly are, right? Beyond all these responsibilities. And like you were mentioning, like, everything started to shatter because you could not understand who you are. Because again, we all have all these titles and roles as parent, as the the partner, as the child, right? And at the workplace as well. All of a sudden, when something just like kind of falls apart, we feel lost. And
Yeah.
the idea of the inner work, there is, like, I always said that this situation was a blessing for me, because it allowed me to come to my purpose, right? Our pain becomes our purpose. And like, all these things were meant to happen in order to trigger the bigger part inside of me that was ready to rise up. And now, like, serving the humanity and helping a lot of people to stand in their power, the same thing what you are doing right now, right? And it is a big blessing. And what I just wanted to point out, that inner work is a must work. And
Mm.
a lot of people who are not still understanding the power of it, because once you work on yourself, you are not anymore conditioned with any economy or anything what's going on outside of you. You're not conditioned with, okay, being in the fear of, oh my God, this partner is gonna, like, leave me, or conditioned with, okay, I don't have any finances, right? Because you become that, powerhouse of your own. Because when you can manage your mind, you can manage your life in any given situation. And this is the skill set. Once we acquire it, nobody can take it from us.
That's right. That's so beautifully said. Yes. Your
Thank you.
mindset is
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is super, super powerful. So, Carrie, tell a little bit more about, for the people, let's say, if they never did any kind of, maybe like, start from the assessment, because a lot of people just, like, going through life with emotion, not realizing, right? And I totally like hear you when you said people pleaser. And, like, a lot of times I was the one who always trying to fix everything, and just, like, being initiator of, okay, like, let me just, like, be quiet, and let me just not start the fire, because I'm not very conflicting person, but I would not allow anybody to step on my toes. Because I would, like, if person pushes me, I'll push them back. But I always want to, kind of eliminate that kind of confrontation. For me, I love to resolve everything in a peaceful manner. And what really stands out for me is just, like, for people, a lot of people blame themselves for anything that's going around their life, right? Maybe they are underappreciated at their job work. Maybe they are not appreciated by their partner, whatever it is, right? I even had that, instance with my kids. I was like, wait a second, who is the boss here, right? Because, like, sometimes they would boss me around, and, like, hold on, I lost it for a second, who is who, right? So the idea is, obviously, like, through this work, we learned how to keep our boundaries, we learned how to step into our power, and, like, really voice our needs. And for somebody who never has done any kind of inner work, what would be the first step that you recommend them to do?
Okay. The first step is just to have some compassion for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Totally.
said, we all like have that self blame. We're always blaming ourselves for things, and let's just step back and just reflect. Okay, you know what? A lot of time we just don't know things early on. Like you mentioned, coping skills. Like, a lot of us are not taught how to cope with difficult situation or cope with
Mm-hmm.
our emotion, anger. A lot of people think anger is the bad thing. Anger is actually neutral. It's how we
Mm-hmm.
deal with anger is the issue. So, if that emotional regulation is a part of it. But, before I get into that, really, it's the realization that we are human. We are
Mhm.
human beings. We're not perfect. We never will be. And the sad thing is a lot of people strive for perfection and they're never happy because they can never get there. We'll never get to
Mhm.
perfection. The important
Totally.
thing is that we look at who we want to be and just be the best person we can be. And when we know better, we do better. I think that's the Maya Angelou quote. So we just try to keep being better today than we were yesterday. That's all.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love it. And you know what? As you shared, Carrie, for me, perfection is boring.
Mm.
Like when I look at, like I want to be perfect. And for me, it's like, boo, this is boring. Like give me some life. I want aliveness. I want people who are ready to make the mistakes. And this is like my favorite thing. I always say I'm flawsome. I'm awesome with all my flaws. And that's exactly how I live my life.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yes. Totally. So let's talk a little bit about the tools, right? If somebody is experiencing that feeling of not appreciated, that feeling that somebody is taking advantage of them, what could be good tools for them to go through that stage?
Okay, great question. What I highly recommend is what worked for me. It's just journaling. Sometimes we have a lot of stuff in our heads, and it's like it gets stuck there, had no place to go. So by journaling, we're doing like a brain dump, and we're just writing down what we're feeling without judgment. That's the big thing. We don't want to
Mhm.
judge what's in our head, right? Again, we're human. We have feeling, we're not perfect. We're gonna think things that maybe aren't, like, ideal, and that's okay. All right? We
Mhm.
just need to have that compassion. The important thing is that we really get to know ourselves. A lot of times
Mhm.
going through the motions of the day, and we're not even thinking about, who we are, where we wanna go, who we wanna be. So by journaling, we're getting all that out of our heads and then we're just reflecting on it. Okay, well, gee, that's interesting that I'm feeling this way. I wonder why, and just going deeper and keep going deeper.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Another thing is affirmation. I do affirmations all the time.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, a lot of times, people, when they're doing affirmation, they're like, well, this doesn't sound like me. It doesn't sound true. So
Mhm.
what I like to encourage people to do is use neutral affirmation. This is like, the step between, where you are now and where you wanna be. This is
Mhm.
something a little more believable, right? So
Mhm.
instead of saying, "I am happy, healthy, and wealthy," our brain might say, "Yeah, right, you're a liar." So
Mhm.
instead, you can say, "I am working on my health or my wealth, and, I'm taking steps, taking action to get myself there," because it's all a process. Everything in life is
Mhm.
a process.
Absolutely. I just love it. As you're sharing, you made me smile because just yesterday I had this interesting story with my dad. So basically, we're also teaching manifestation, like you were saying about journaling, right? It's like such a great part of it. And I always tell people that the quality of question we are asking determine the quality of the answer we are receiving. And you'd be surprised, a lot of times we do not know how to shape up that good question that to ask, like it precisely. Sometimes people just wander around, right, about talking about something, and then the most important thing is like, what exactly is your question? So yesterday we are just like, my dad discovered Copilot on his phone, and he's like, Copilot is like, for anybody who doesn't know, it's something similar, like like that AI intelligence to give you the answer, something like everybody's using chat gpt. So he is there playing, and he's like, I would like to ask some kind of question. And like we were talking about going on vacation, and I said, well, you can ask him, like, what are the prices for the cruise, right? And he's like, okay, I am planning to go on the cruise. He doesn't have the dates. He doesn't have which kind of cruise line he wants to take. He doesn't give the destination. And I'm like, Dad, how can you expect that, to receive the answer if you do not even clear on all the things that matter, right? So the idea is even coming back to journaling, right? Because that's exactly the association that I had when we were like laughing and having fun yesterday. So the association is that when we journal, the more we start, like one question is going to lead to another question. And the more we write, the more clarity comes to everything what we want to find out.
Love that. Yeah. And you're
Yes.
right, you need to know where you wanna go and have all the details if you want it to come true, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So everything, clarity is power, right? So when we talk about self-worth, a lot of people kind of live in denial because I know it's very painful to start digging, right? I always say that the inner work is the most rigorous work, but it's the most rewarding work. And for people who are continue denying themselves and saying, you know what, I'm good, I'm good, I do not need anything, I'm good, right? And the idea is, okay, maybe you are good, but you can be better because, good is the enemy of great. And like you mentioned, Keri, we are here all to become better every day in every way. And that's what we are striving for. Why do we need that? Because again, it comes down our nervous system when we are in control, because again, we cannot control anything outside of us, but we can totally control how we behave and how we feel and how we just show up in the world.
Love that, yeah. And I also wanna add about, uh, overwhelm. Like, a lot of time when
Mhm.
we're going through things, we don't know where to start, right?
Right.
So, what I like to do is just stay quiet and being present. It's all about mindfulness. So many times we turn to our phone, like, when we're bored or we just we have, maybe a minute to ourselves and we're just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. I stopped doing that. I used to take the phone in the bathroom with me, for instance, and just look.
Mhm.
Now it's
Mhm.
like, no, I enjoy those moments where I just have nothing and I can just think. And a wise person once said, "The busier you are, the more you need to meditate." So, I
Mhm.
know I'm talking about, being present, but it's kinda, like, related. We need that quiet space to just think, just to be present, just look out the window, look at the beautiful trees that are out there, look at the birds that
Right.
are singing. You know, I think many people rob themselves of that precious, uh, present, the
Mhm.
present, because we're worrying about, tomorrow or we're ruminating about the past, and when you think about it, the present is all we have. That's it,
Totally.
and we lose
Yeah.
it. We
Mhm.
we never get it back.
Right. So
Yes,
true, Carrie, because a lot of times we are either living with the past, like constantly thinking what was good about that past, or we are just thinking about in the future, but we never like really take ourselves in the present time. And present time is all we have, right? So that's exactly what we are teaching. We are creating in the moment, and because moment is the only thing that we have, right?
yeah, and there's a sense of peace in that. Like, I am, like, so happy because I have such peace and joy because I did the inner work, and,
Mhm.
and I'm so glad I did that, and I'm glad for all the obstacles that I've had, the challenges, because it helped me to grow, and
Mhm.
it's done that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes, everything. And like I love these challenges because once we overcome them, we become even more stronger, we become more resilient. And then we are like, okay, just bring it on. I don't care. I can handle it, right? And
yes,
that's the beauty of the inner work, right? And that's the beauty of awareness. The more aware we are, the more we realize that, hey, there is a lot of things we can navigate differently as opposed just allowing the life just happens to us.
yeah, love that, and then when we are facing challenges, a lot of time we want to step back or we're afraid to take that challenge. We're afraid of failing, but we
Mm-hmm.
need to fail our way to success. And as we meet each challenge, we gain more confidence in ourselves, and that builds over time. That gives us the motivation to keep going. So it's really important to take those challenges and risk and
Mm-hmm.
don't let fear get in the way. Fear robs you of life,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
I know, and there is no better day than today. So
Yeah.
if anybody is watching and thinking, okay, I don't know when I want to start it, right? We are always thinking that, like one of these days in the future, well, nobody knows how much future we have. So the idea is today is the best day to start anything. And if anybody is listening today, and if this is the message that meant to find you today, so just take it in and do something about your life. And Keri, any tips before we wrap up this episode? It's like, I love this conversation. It can go for hours. And I know there is a lot of value in that. But if you would leave the audience with the tips, what would be some tips you want to give them?
Well, it's more a statement, and I think it's really important to say that you are all worthy. You are worthy just as you are today,
Mhm.
and you matter.
Yes, absolutely. So continue loving yourself, continue just like you mentioned, feel the compassion for yourself, continue celebrating yourself because at the end of the day, all we have is just ourselves. And
That's
if we are not taking care of ourselves, who will, right?
exactly.
Thank you so much, Keri. That was very insightful. Super, super grateful for you coming and sharing all these gems today on this episode, and for everybody to connect, how people can connect with you.
Yes, you can connect with me on, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yeah, and I think everything is in the show.
Yes, everything is in the description. Yes. Thank you again so much for everything and for everybody. Just think and claim yourself of self-worth and become the best version of yourself. Sending you lots of love and light and see you on the next